Hi, I'm Walter Von Uni,
And I'm Mike Clayson.
and we're here today to talk about people our age and getting old and then still being relevant in this world. And what do we do and people who don't feel relevant or who don't feel a part of anything? And, I know that or let me give this example. Before, we had different careers. Mike was an attorney. I was in the entertainment business and doing all kinds of things. Actor. I was an actor, but a writer, director, and an acting coach, really, for the majority of my career. But we now look at ourselves as still relevant, not because of what we did, but because of who we are and what we're doing today.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, this conversation started because, the idea of people expecting you at a certain age, people stop listening to you for what you might be offering. They stop interacting with you not because of what you're offering, but more about who you are, your identity as an older person, and they tend to discount that. They don't think, especially younger people, when they're talking to you. Even my own kids, they just don't really want to hear much from me because they think, and it might be true, maybe not, but they think that because I don't know what their lives are like, and so whatever advice or information I have to convey to them is probably not useful to them, and it's not relevant. So they just kind of blow me off. But you had a recent experience, or you had an experience in your business.
Yeah, let me tell you about that.
Yeah.
And I'm on a set. We're shooting up in Canada, and I'm always all over the place and doing my thing. And I noticed the prop lady, who was fantastic. She was such a delight. But wherever I went, she would put my chair behind me. Walter Von Uni, and my chairs. I go, and after a while, I said, hey, I don't need that chair there. I'm fine. I'm saying, no, well, just in case.
Yeah.
I said, no. And I realized she's doing this because she's looking at me and saying, well, he's long in the tooth and he might need to sit down at some point, and I'm going to make sure he has that comfort zone for him. And I'm going, what comfort zone? I'm still active here. I'm still doing things. And I know you had an experience.
Yeah, I mean, your prop person was coming from a place of kindness.
Absolutely.
He was trying to keep you from having to embarrass yourself by saying, oh, I got to sit down for a moment.
Yeah.
She probably was right to do that. Anyway, but I had a similar experience just a couple of days ago where I'm on a Zoom call with my bank and with a broker, with a real estate broker, and they're asking for documentation. And I'm saying, look, guys, some of the stuff you're asking for, it's too large to email. And they would say, well, that's all right. Just take it down to Kinko's. And I know that's probably, they don't exist, but take it down to a photocopy shop and have it photocopied, and then just put it in a FedEx envelope, and we'll get it in a day or so. And I said to them, well, okay, I could do that, but that's a hassle. Don't you have a digital vault or a portal that I can use instead to just send it over to you? And there was like this pregnant pause where the other people on the call are kind of looking at each other, and I realized that in that moment they didn't think that I knew what those things were. Mm-hmm. And in an effort to be kind to me, they weren't offering them up so that I wouldn't look silly going, I don't know, guys, what can I tell you? I don't know what those are. So yeah, as soon as I mentioned those things, they said, yeah, we got that stuff. And I said, well, give me the passwords and the protocols, and I'll send it right over. And I did. And then I had to endure the next Zoom call where they're all congratulating me for being able to handle the technology. Good job, geezer. Yeah. We didn't think you had it in you. Kind of phone call. Very also from a place of kindness, trying to be polite, courteous, and thoughtful. But they say that old adage of the road to hell is paved with good intentions. It is so true, and that's what's happening here, and it really is upsetting and hurtful.
It's perception.
Yeah.
If you look at it, it's really perception of the way you look. And because of the way you look and, quote, the age you are,
Yeah.
they're saying now, oh, he's had his time. He was great then, but now he's a little overhill. We're taking over. It's our time.
Yeah.
And so
You're expected to step aside.
you're expected to step aside versus saying you're still relevant. I know there was just somebody who wrote a book or something, and the publisher or whoever it was didn't accept it because of the fact it was written by somebody in their 70s,
Right.
and saying, well, that's not relevant.
Right.
They might not even have read it.
Right, I'm aware of that.
And
instance, and it
because
was a guy.
it's just, oh, what? No, nobody wants to read that.
Right.
Could have been the greatest thing in the world. Who knows?
Right. This was an author with a publishing record,
Right.
with a publisher that he knew, and they knew him, and they still were interested in taking it because even though the publisher might have thought it was a good book,
Yeah.
they were saying our audience, our the people who read our stuff, they're not going to buy your book because you're too old.
Yeah, but it's just crazy. But then we are now, quote, retired, but we're still involved with other things.
Right. So that's the thing is so. Right. Then I was going to ask you about how to positively cope with these things. Mm-hmm. And you've mentioned. I know you have a very full calendar of things that you do. I do too, and it's good. But there are some people who don't have that ability to reach out and to create a new like cast of activities with a new cast of friends, and so they're upset because they're being pushed aside. They don't feel like they still feel like they have something to contribute, but they're not being asked to. No one's asking for their opinion.
Yeah.
No one thinks they're important, and they're upset about that. They're upset about the fact that they can't hear as well, they can't see as well, they can't remember things as well, and so they are very frustrated and angry. And these people take that out. They act it out against other people in ways that are petty and obnoxious and difficult. And I just have no patience.
But
for
I
that.
think it's also a mindset. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that I still feel young, even though I know I'm not. I still feel I'm capable of doing things. I'm still capable of writing. I'm still capable of playing some sports, even though I'm not as good as I am when I'm in my 20s, 30s, or 40s.
Right.
But there are people who just say, oh, dang, I'm old now. I can't do anything.
Yeah.
And that pisses them off.
Very
That's
much.
saying, I used to be, now I can't, and I'm frustrated now, and I'm angry. And that comes out.
Right. And also the whole, let me tell you who I was.
That's another part.
Yeah. So, lately, whenever I talk to somebody new, first 5 or 10 minutes is going through their resume.
Yeah.
I have to hear their CV before they,
Right.
I used to be this, I used to be in charge of that, I managed that, I got this industry award, and I was third in my class in this, and that's great. That's great that they had these experiences and they were so successful in their careers. But what does that have to do with anything that's going on?
Well, that
right now?
defines them to themselves of who they are today by looking at who they were in the past. I don't look at myself as who I was in the past. I look at myself as who I am today, what I'm doing today, and what I enjoy.
Yeah.
And it's not saying I'm not angry because I got old. There's no need to get angry or upset about that. It's going to happen to everybody. And so I just live my life today. Mm-hmm. And as you said, I never tell people about what industry I was in, because then that opens the Pandora's box of asking every question of who did you work with, what were they like, what was that show, and all of that. And I don't want to get into the minutia of all that. Right. That's all gone.
So your what's your advice here? How do you, like, for instance, okay, so your advice, first of all, what's your advice for people like us that
Okay.
we've moved on, right? So
We've moved on.
We're retired.
I
So what's
think
your advice?
my advice
Yeah.
is be happy with who you are today. Get involved with things that you feel passionate about or that you like to do, and do that. I know you have the analogy we talked off camera about the fighting, and that
Well,
for
that's sort of
respect.
right. I mean, so it's sort of a two-part question, which was, what do you tell people like us? What do you tell them to do? And then how do you handle people that want to kill you with kindness, so to speak? And so it sounds like the first part is that you get engaged as much as you can with what's available to you now, and things that are interesting to you, you pursue that. And I agree with that. But then your second point about how do you cope with people who are trying to be unkindly kind towards you? Mm-hmm. What do you do about those people?
I walk away. I don't need them in my life.
Yeah, but what if you are in a situation where you have to engage with them? What do you do?
I will not. I will talk to them. I'll close down, so to speak. I won't engage with them or talk to them about anything. And that's a good topic for another one of our talks about politics today and how people aren't talking to each other. But we'll talk about that later. But
Let me know when you want to do that, and I'll be out of town.
yeah.
But to go back to what we were discussing, I have a different approach, and it has to do with jail. Not that I've been in, I have a direct experience with this, but I've had clients who do, and my view is taken from them, and what they've always said was when the first day they're in jail, first day they're in the yard, the way they get respect is they look around. If they're capable of doing this, they look around for the biggest, baddest guy in the yard, and they go over there and beat the crap out of him.
Okay.
And that says to everyone else, respect me. I'm not someone to be trifled with. And I have a variation of that when someone like that Zoom call I was on is trying to kill me with kindness. I do the same thing. I pick out the most difficult, most alpha person in the Zoom call, and I go after that person to let them understand that, hey, I'm a peer. Treat me with respect. Don't mess with me. So that is
Okay.
That's the way I handle it.
Well, here's the thing. We've talked about this, but I want to read a little something.
Well, before you do that, though,
Yeah.
to sort of finish it up, this is all about kind of a roundabout way of saying we know death's coming, but we're trying to avoid it as much as we can, or put it off as long as we can. And
Yeah.
you know, it's one of those things where you don't want to be forgotten, you don't want to be discounted, and you know, you just do the best you can to try and put these things off.
Yeah. To me, you're never too old to give back something, whatever it is that you do, and to be helpful, be kind, be good, and because we're not going to live another 30 years, and when we're in our 20s, we thought of old people as going out,
Right.
and it's the same
We
thing.
never gave it a thought.
So let me read this to you here as to what I have. This is by a gentleman named John Dunn. And I know of but one remedy against the fear of death, and that is effectual, and that it will stand the test, either of a sick bed or of a sound mind. And that is a good life, a clear conscience, an honest heart, and a well-ordered conversation to carry the thoughts of dying men among us. And so to live before we die as we shall wish we had when we come to it. I think that's a great statement.
A great sentiment, and that's why we do YouTube videos.